solve the inequality and then write the solution set in interval notation. We have the quantity x plus 6 squared times x minus 9, which is less than 0. So in this particular problem here, we already have 0 already isolated on the right side of this rational inequality. Now we just need to factor x plus 6 squared, which is the same thing as x plus 6 times x plus 6 times x minus 9, and that's less than 0. Okay, so now we want to be able to find our interval boundaries. So in order to find our interval boundaries, what we're going to do is we're going to set this inequality as an equation and set it equal to 0. So we have x plus 6 times x plus 6 times x minus 9, and that's equal to 0. So we have x plus 6 equals 0, or x plus 6 equals 0, or x minus 9 equals 0. So we have x equals negative 6, or again x equals negative 6, or x is equal to positive 9. So now we determined what our interval boundaries are going to be. So when we look at our interval boundaries, again we go from negative infinity to positive infinity. In this case we have negative 6. We have two solutions at negative 6, so it's just negative 6 for one of the interval boundaries, and the other one is 9. So we have three regions: region 1, region 2, and then region 3. The first region goes from negative infinity to negative 6. The second region goes from negative 6 to positive 9. And the third region goes from 9 to positive infinity. Now we're going to go ahead and then test these regions. So for region number 1, we're going to pick a value in there. So we're going to pick negative 7. So x is going to equal negative 7. And now we're going to plug it into the inequality. So negative 7 plus 6 times negative 7 plus 6 times negative 7 minus 9. We want to see if that's less than 0. Well, negative 7 plus 6 is negative 1. Again, negative 7 plus 1 is negative 1. And then negative 7 minus 9 is negative 16. So a negative times a negative times a negative is going to give us a negative. 1 times 16 is going to give us negative 16. So is negative 16 less than 0? Well, the answer is true. So we know it's true for region number 1. Okay, let's take a look at region number 2. We're going to pick 0 for x. So x is going to equal 0. So we have 0 plus 6 times 0 plus 6 times 0 minus 9. So we have 6 times 6 times negative 9, right? So then if we take 6 times 6 times 9 gives us 324, and this is negative, so this is negative 324, which is less than 0, and therefore that is also a true statement. So it's true for the second region. Next, we're going to take a look at region number 3. So picking a value in region number 3, we can pick 10. So x is going to equal 10. So we have 10 plus 6 times 10 plus 6 times 10 minus 9, and we want to see if that's less than 0. Well, 10 plus 6 is 16. 10 plus 6 is 16, and 10 minus 9 is 1. So we want to multiply 16 times 16. So if we take 16 and multiply it by 16, we get 256. So is 256 less than 0? Well, the answer is false. So therefore, it's false for region number 3. So where did we find that it's true? Well, it's true in region number 1, and it's true for region number 2. So we have a less than symbol, which means we're not going to use a bracket. So if you notice here, it is from negative infinity to negative 6 union negative 6 to 9. And so there's a reason why we have to write it this way, is because we cannot include the negative 6. And the reason why is, let's plug it in into the original inequality. If we plug in negative 6 and then add 6 and then square it, and then take negative 6 and then subtract 9, okay, what happens? Well, this gives us 0 squared. And 0 squared is 0, so this is 0, and is 0 less than 0? Well, that's false. So we cannot include the 6, which is the reason why we need to write this in 2 intervals, so that negative 6 is not included. So basically what it's saying here is that, okay, you're going from negative infinity all the way to 6, but you can't include 6, and then you got to start again at negative 6, and then go all the way to 9. And so therefore, that's why you need to be careful in this particular situation, because of the inequality. Now, if this said less than or equal to, then you'd be able to include it. But because it's just less than, you don't include it, and therefore you have to separate it in that way. So let's go ahead and type this in. So we have parentheses, negative infinity, comma, negative 6, parenthesis, union, and then parenthesis, negative 6, comma, positive infinity with our, not positive, not infinity, but 9, and therefore check our answer, and there is our result.